Okay. So today's verses are actually in continuation of the idea that Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna what happens after death and what are the different conditions that you go through, what are the different possibilities that happen after death. So verse 21 is Avyaktokshara ityuktam tam ahuh paramam gatim sab yam prapyana nivartante tadhava paramam mama. So that is my abode, O Krishna, O Arjuna, where once one goes to this Aksharam Brahma, which means this um, indivisible, indestructible Brahman, the supreme consciousness that is indestructible, that is ever existing. When one attains to that understanding, then there is no returning back, and that is my place, which means that is where I reside. That is where my consciousness is. I am always absorbed in that consciousness. Okay, that is what he is saying. Avyakta akshara ityuktam. So whatever has been spoken about so far about the Aksharam Brahma, because this whole chapter Adhyaya is on Akshara Brahma Yoga, right? So until now, whatever is this Avyakta, the unmanifest Akshara, indestructible Brahman that is being spoken about, that is the destination. Once one reaches tam prapya, yam prapya, which once reached, na nivartante, they don't come back. And tad dhama paramam mama, that is my supreme abode too. Abdi. So which means if you go to that place, it will be so beautiful, and that is the place where I am also. I exist. What does it mean? It means that I exist in the same consciousness. I am absorbed or uh, situated in the same consciousness, understanding of that same consciousness, which once you also achieve, you will be in that state of immortality, in that state of complete absorption. So Krishna is kind of alluding to this state. Okay. We can also, for a bhakta or a prapanna or somebody who is doing sharanagati, somebody in the path of complete devotion, we can consider that we now attain to Krishna himself, which means we become a part of Krishna, or we are in Krishna's abode. Vaikuntha, Goloka, there are different names that are given to this place, right? This is not heaven, by the way. Okay, this is not Swargaloka. In the subsequent verses, he talks about Swargaloka is different. Swargaloka is somewhere where you go, enjoy the punyas that you have collected. You collect some amount of punya, you go to Swargaloka, you enjoy, and once the punya balance sheet nullifies, comes to a nil, then you come back into Bhuloka to experience life again. And this cycle keeps going on and on. Now, whether you go to Punya, heaven or hell, hell is Patala Loka, the lower lokas. Whether you go to a higher loka or the lower lokas, it will be determined by the Papa or the Punya, which means um, the results of your good karma or good deeds or vicious or um, misdeeds, right? When you do any deed, there is a result. The result could be either a punya or a papa. Okay, it could either be a punya or a papa. There is no punya. So the important thing to note is karma by itself is not punya karma or papa karma. The output is a punya or a papa. What action that you do is just karma. How does that take shape in terms of punya or papa is depending on our intention, the way we work, the way we do the karma. right? The way and the intention with which we do the karma results into either punya or papa. And depending on how much we carry the accounting that we have in terms of how much punya and papa decides where we go after death. That is the general idea. Now, whether there are different theologies, which have different ideas of heaven, hell, etc. But typically, for our understanding, there is somewhere that we go essentially after the um, um, after the body drops. Obviously, there is somewhere that this entity I would go, right? Now, where we go, we don't know. And different scriptures say different things, right? There are belief systems that say that this is all it is. It all ends here. And there are belief systems, no, you go to heaven or hell. There is a judgment day. And when you stand there, there will be somebody who will be holding like a book, naughty and nice. So there'll be a, like Kalpaka saying, there'll be Hariom Kalpaka, there'll be an auditing that will be done at the end of it. There'll be an auditing that will be done and look at the good, the good things that you've done and the bad things. And then accordingly, depending on which is more or less, you'll either be sent to some place for a little period of time or you'll be sent elsewhere and so on and so forth, right? Now, all of this is scriptural work, also because a lot of times for us to be able to experience this and come and talk about it is not always possible, right? Correct. Chitragupta's accounts in the Hindu Puranic literature, you look at Chitragupta is the one who does this accounting. He's Yama's accountant, Lord Yama's accountant. Now, the thing is, what happens really after death is, so let's just talk about this for a short while, because this is important in terms of what Krishna is going to say next. See, what happens after death, there is very little understanding that we have in our own experience, correct? We can experience everything else. How do I experience death and then come and talk about it? So when we say, and this is where the scriptures score over us, right? They score over us to say that, okay, I understand, for you, everything experientially should make sense. Only then you will accept it. But there are so many things that are beyond your comprehension in the way you are constructed, right? There are few people who have near-death experiences. There are a lot of accounts these days. If you go onto YouTube also, you'll find a lot of interesting accounts of near-death experiences where people have a very interesting experience. They are in the hospital bed, or they are on a surgery table, operation theater surgery table or somewhere, and their body is on the table, but they leave the body, and they have the experience of seeing the body, and they going somewhere, and then probably they're seeing different things, interesting things and all, and then they come, there is some force that pulls them back to the body, and they come back into the body, and then when they're up, they say this is not a dream, because it has been a vivid experience within them, a very, very alive experience that they had. So there are many accounts of people having had near-death experiences.
Ramana
Maharshi also, in a way, correct.
UK ஒரு லேடி, she was டாக்டர் வந்து நான் வந்து ஐ வாஸ் சீயிங், நீங்கள் போச்சு, நீங்கள் வந்து எனக்கு இதெல்லாம் கொடுத்தீங்க, எலக்ட்ரிக்கில் இதெல்லாம் கொடுத்தீங்க, நீங்கள் ஷாக்கெல்லாம் கொடுத்தீங்க, அப்புறம் நீங்கள் இந்த டாக்டர்ஸ் அஸ்ட்ரோனட் எப்படி உனக்கு நீ அன்கான்சியஸ் அப்படின்னா, நான் அதெல்லாம் பார்த்தேன் அப்படின்ற நரேஷன் படிச்சிருக்கேன் நான்.
ஆமா. So there are interesting accounts that have been also captured in medical history, where people make these narrations about what they perceive is being done to their body. It is very difficult for somebody who's in an unconscious and anesthesia to have experienced and recorded that in their memory. right? If you're an anesthesia, it's very difficult for you to record what's happening to your body, but these accounts where this has happened. And then there are also accounts where they kind of experience them leaving this world and going into some plane and experiencing certain things. And I've also read in some places there is some kind of a silver cord that keeps them connected to the body that is there, the physical body that is there, this astral body that's going around. And then after a while, and that while is difficult to explain, right, in terms of time, they get pulled back and they come back into this body, and then they experience this form of life again. And this experience has transformed them in many ways. It is given, this has been a transformative experience, because now suddenly they will now feel that, oh my God, I can die anytime, so I must spend time with my family. So the things that they feel that they have done wrong or they have not done right, they try to correct those things, and they come into a little more understanding about what the value of life. This is as a transformative experiences, people as experience people have had this, right? So this is something that few people have. But it's not everybody's experience, right? Sorry. You and I don't have this experience, and I can't say that only after I experience this will I understand what is death. Sorry. So that is where scriptures come into play. Okay. So scriptures, one of the reasons why they say scriptures are known as the sixth pramana. The five pramanas are the pramanas that we have on our the physical senses of cognition, right? Using the physical senses of cognition, there are their association called as pancha pramana. Pratyaksha pramana, anumana, upamana, anupalabdhi, and um, there's a fifth one. I don't remember. So this pancha pramanas, which means these are five forms, and shabda pramana, or one of these. So there is inference, there is verbal testimony, then there is so on and so forth, right? There are a few ways in which you um, absorb or consume knowledge. Some things that is pratyaksha, you consume by your own experience, and there are things by hearsay or by somebody listening to it or by inference. These are ways. Scriptures are known as the sixth pramana, which means they are, because it may not be in our experience, you look to the scriptures to understand what may happen after death, what happens to, what is there a soul, what is the soul, and things like that, right? So you look to the scriptures. But even in scriptures there are a lot of conflicts, and it can be misguiding because it requires interpretation. Somebody needs to explain and teach us, because this can be understood by one who goes deep within. If somebody spends that time and goes deep within, there is a possibility of some of these experiences that can be simulated. Like Amma said, Ramana Maharshi had this experience of death, right? This whole experience that he had. And then you can then possibly narrate, or also you will understand what it actually means to have been dead. So in this case, what is happening? Krishna is telling Arjuna, you don't understand these things because you don't know what it means to be dead. So I'm trying to explain to you what happens. At the time of death, if you keep yourself in a certain way, this is where you go. If you keep yourself in another way, this is where you go. Right? Then Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, Arthapatti, Anupalabdhi, Shabda. Correct. Pratyaksha is direct perception, Anumana is inference, Upamana is by similarity, Arthapatti is by the etymology, or I think you go to the no, Arthapatti is I think two-level inference or something of that kind. Anupalabdhi is by means of absence of something. And
Postulation.
Shabda is verbal testimony. என்னம்மா?
அடுத்த பத்தி வந்து postulation போட்டிருக்கோம்.
Postulation. I think it's you combine two things together and you try to make an inference. Right. So that's an interesting topic. There are usually discussions around how these pramanas are also, how do we actually consume knowledge, and these are terms that are given to them. Anyway, so what Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna is that now it's hard for me to make this as a demonstration to you, so you understand what happens here, right? When you are in a certain state, then you go to a certain place after the body drops. Okay, that is what he is trying to tell in 21. And one who is in this state of established consciousness, he doesn't come back. Okay, we'll touch upon that, the coming back part. And then he goes to say purusha saparaf partha bhaktya labhyastvananyaya. So this particular purusha, or the avyakta akshara brahman, is greater than everything that is there, and it can be attained only through devotion. And this exists in everything, and everything exists in him, which means he is sarva bhutani yena sarvam idam tatam. So he is within all beings, antasthani bhutani. He is existing in all bhutas, and by whom everything is pervaded. Yena sarvam idam tatam. So this is the entity in which everything exists and which exists in everything. The closest example for us is space. Okay. So when you say space, space is everywhere, which means it's, if you take the substance, if you take this, there is space outside, there is space inside also. Just a container, there is space outside, there is space inside. And you go down to the more further, break it down into the atomic level also, there is space. Between the nucleus and the electrons, there is space. Between the protons and neutrons, there is space. So on and so forth, right? So space is inside and it's also on the outside. So this is the closest example for us to understand what it means by saying that this entity, Aksharam Brahma or Purusha, is everywhere. Now, one who understands this, so he's saying this understanding, why is this understanding important? Is because then he takes us to the state in which you will be once you drop the body. Okay. He classifies the state into two main paths, marga. One is called the Uttarayana Marga, the other is the Dakshinayana Marga. Okay. Uttarayana is the northbound journey or the direction. The other is the southbound. The northbound means the thing to note here, in a lot of Upanishadic literature, north and south are not necessarily directions. They are it indicates higher and lower. Okay, it indicates the higher. So if you're saying you're going to a higher plane or a higher region, it's the it could be indicated as northwards. Southwards is a lower plane. That is one. The other thing is, in the literature, in Vedic and Upanishadic literature, Surya is symbol of spirit. Chandra is the symbol of matter. Right? So the symbol of matter, which means that which is closest to manifest, the world of manifestation. Moon is the closest. And sun always represents action, light, achieving something, getting somewhere. Moon always represents moon always represents calming down, slowing down, settling down, right? So this is another aspect that we just keep in mind in our minds, because what he is trying to explain here is the two marga. So the another term for these two marga, one is called Archaradi marga and the other is called Dhumadi marga. The path of the sun and the path of the smoke, or the path of the light, path of the smoke. Archiradi marga means archis means light. Archis means light or brightness. Archiradi, light and etc. Light, etc. Marga. Dhuma adi, smoke, etc. Marga. Now, what are those etc. here in this shloka, in this verse? Krishna has indicated that. He says, Yatra kale tvanavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaha. At the time of death, there are two ways. There are two routes. One route you come back, in one route you don't come back. In one path, it's a return ticket. In one path, it's a one-way ticket. Right? Prayata yantik tam kalam vakshyami bharatarshabha. May I explain that to you, O Arjuna? What are those two margas? 24 and 25 talks about those two margas. Agnihi jyotihi ahaha shuklaha. Agni is fire, Jyoti is light, Ahaha is day, Shuklaha is white. These are the four properties of this root. Fire, light, day, which is bright, essentially the aspect of the day, and white. Shanmasa Uttarayanam, the 6-month path of Uttarayana. Tatra prayata gachanti brahmavido janaha. The one who goes in that path does not come, he attains to Brahman. Okay. Then, this is one path. The other path, Dhumo Ratrihi Tatha Krishnaha. Dhumaha is smoke. It's a smoky path. It's dark, Ratrihi, and Krishnaha, black in color. Shanmasa Dakshinayanam. It is a path of the 6-month Dakshinayana. Tatra Chandramasam Jyotihi Yogi Prapya Nivartate. Which means going there, Jyotihi Prapya the Nivartate. Such yogi who attain to that marga, they come back. It is the lunar path. Okay. Then he says, Shukla Krishna Gate Ghete Jagata Shashvate Mate Ekaya Yatyana Vrittim Anyaya Vartate Punaha. So, those who go, and then he says, this is the way that these are two bright and dark, Krishna Shukla path, bright and dark paths that exist in the world. The way of light leads to liberation, the way of darkness leads to rebirth. Okay. This is what Krishna is saying. Now, what does it mean to us? Right? Because we are not going to ever experience, or at least most of us are not going to experience these and come back and have a satsang about it. Correct? நான் போயிட்டு வந்து சொல்றேன் அப்படின்னு சொல்லவே முடியாது.
யாரும் இருக்க மாட்டா சார் பயந்துட்டு.
நம்ம சொல்றதுக்கு வந்தாலும் பயந்துட்டு எல்லாரும் ஓடி போயிடுவான். That's right. So, what it means to the living then? what is this knowledge going to give me? What is this knowledge going to give me? See, like we spoke the other day, it is a very all of us kind of live trying to get somewhere, right? In some way or the other, we try to get somewhere. Whether we get somewhere while we live or after we die, our hope is we always get to a better place. Point is, we get to a better place than we are here right now. Wherever we are, we always want to be in a better place, because something here is not complete. Something here is not fulfilled. So we want to get to a place of complete fulfillment. And which is why we keep looking at these promises that are made in the scriptures. All these promises that the scriptures make, what does it give us? It gives us hope. Right? Now, it gives hope for people who want this hope. Those who don't want this, there's nothing to offer. If you're not looking for this, so like for example, if you go and tell somebody, hey, you இப்படி பண்ணிட்டு இருந்தா தூமாதி மார்க்கத்துல தான் போக போற அப்படின்னு சொன்னா, you tell him like that, உனக்கு மட்டும் தெரியுமா நீ அர்ச்சராதி மார்க்கத்துல போக போற அப்படின்னு, he's going to say, right? How do you know? But we live in that hope. And somebody who you go point out saying that you will end up elsewhere, for him it doesn't matter. So only for somebody this matters, then you take this seriously. You say, oh, then there are two paths, then I have to take Archiradi Marga. See, it will never be a case where somebody holds on to the scripture as their solace or a place of relief or something that gives them hope. They hold to the scriptures and they say, okay, let me do Dhumadi Marga, or let me go to the less desirable path. Nobody is going to say that. If the scriptures matter to you, if what the content here says is said by somebody matters to you, then you will say, okay, of these two paths, I'd like to pick this one up. Correct? Then there is a dialogue, then there is a conversation. So in the same way, Krishna is telling Arjuna, since you're trusting in me, since so far what I've said probably made sense to you, now let me tell you this. There are two. Which one would you choose? It's not even a question. Allah. Of course, I will choose the Archiradi Marga. Of course, I won't want to come back. Because I know I've figured out in the discourse, I've figured out, Krishna, there is so much suffering. Right now, I'm suffering. Because Arjuna standing there is suffering. Because he's not able to stand up and kill his own people. He doesn't know what is right and wrong. This is the biggest suffering we go through in life. The biggest suffering we go through in life is we don't know what is right or what is wrong. There are sometimes we just follow what somebody says and we keep following it because it's easy for us not to process right or wrong. Let that person process right or wrong, I'll just follow. But when at a point it becomes unbearable and you don't want to follow, then you sit back and think, oh my God, what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing or the wrong thing? Or maybe is this the right thing that I'm following? All of these conflicts we go through. Why? Because we want to be in a better place than where we are. We don't know what that better place is. Right? The scriptures give us some painting, some imagery, some fairy tale version of these things. I don't mean to say these are fairy tales, but I am saying we want to believe in something beautiful because we believe that if I do the right things and I get there, it will be really beautiful. Because there are so many scriptures, so many texts, so many Mahatmas have told that Vaikuntha is a beautiful place to be. Now, have they themselves gone and come back and they are talking? We don't know. What is the way for them to prove? It's hard for them to prove, right? See, even though Krishna gave, in the following chapters, he will give Vishwarupa Darshanam to Arjuna. He just shows his all pervasiveness. But Arjuna has not experienced his death and he has not come back. He has not experienced what it means to drop my whole identity, die, and then I don't know where I'm going next and I come back, so on and so forth, right? That's not happened to him. So it's difficult for us to know. But one thing we know, we don't want to be in a place where we are stuck after death. Correct? That we are clear. One thing everybody will say, at least people who are sadhakas will say, I don't want to be born again. Those who are not sadhakas also, வீட்டில் போய் generally some mommy you go and ask, you'll say, ஐயோ திரும்ப பிறக்க வேண்டாம்ப்பா அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவார். But are we doing the right things not to be born again is a different
திருப்பி
question.
பிறக்க வேணாம்பா சொல்லிட்டு சரி வாங்க போலாம் அப்படின்னாக்கா இல்ல அப்புறமா வரேன்.
அப்புறமா வரேன். I'm not ready. யூஎஸ்ல என் பேரன் பையன் கூப்பிடுறான், நான் ஓடி ஆகணும். நான் போகலைன்னா ஒண்ணுமே நடக்காது அவனுக்கு. So, but that is our situation, because somewhere in our heads we know we don't want to come back because we know there is suffering here. We've seen enough suffering in this life. Suppose everything was very beautiful in this life, right? See, even you see Ambani's son, the son who's getting married now. He had his engagement.
Anant person.
Anant Ambani. Look at, I mean, for us, when you look at him, you're saying he's got opulence. He's affluent beyond any measure. So much. But then he's got his own problems. He's got physical problems. He's got medical issues and all of that. So forget in comparison, just to look at your own life, just our own life, as individuals, you'll see you will have sufferings. And you want to get out from these sufferings. So what we think, oh, maybe I don't come back, I don't have to be born here. If I'm in heaven or I'm floating around somewhere, it is a much nicer place to be. Maybe, may not be. See, right now, you feel hungry, you're able to go buy food and eat. That's a blessing. But suppose you are in a state where you don't have the body, but hunger is there. Hunger is there, the feeling of hunger is there, but you don't have a body to eat. How will you satiate that desire? It's like the feeling of itching is there, but you're not able to itch. How will you itch? Feeling of itching is there. It's even more irritating, right? So we want to be in a place, a better place than where we are right now, because we find this as suffering. If this lifetime was a joy, we wouldn't think of death. We wouldn't think of elsewhere. I was telling someone the other day, there is a beautiful verse by Buddha. Okay, let me just read out that verse to you. I remember having said this once. Yadi janma jara maranam na bhavet, yadi cheshta viyoga bhayam na bhavet, yadi sarvam anityam idam na bhavet, iha janmani kasya ratir na bhavet. Yadi janma jara maranam na bhavet, if there was no janma, old age and death, na bhavet. Yadi cheshta viyoga bhayam na bhavet, which means if there was no fear of separation. Yadi sarvam anityam idam na bhavet, if everything here is temporary or everything here is anitya, that did not exist, which means everything here is permanent. So if these things didn't exist, iha janmani, in this lifetime, kasya ratirna bhavet, how will not one like this place? How will one not living here if these sufferings are not there? Buddha said this. This is his realization. He's saying this world is so beautiful if the sufferings were not there. But the fact is what sufferings are there. So we look for some resolution. Now comes the important point. Where is the resolution? Now, like Krishna is saying, are we seeking a resolution after death, which we don't know, or are we seeking a resolution right now? Do we think if we have to go through the Archiradi Marga, I can be in whatever horrible situation now, but at the time of death, I will go in the Archiradi Marga? That will not happen, no? It is not like I am feeling wretched and my body is dropping and suddenly somebody is coming or kudirela vandu va archiradi margala pola appadina. Nobody is going to take me like that. Assuming I've done many yajnas, pujas, homas, japas, tapas, whole life of chanting prayers, all that, but inside me I'm feeling wretched, I'm feeling lowly, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling yaramilla, I'm feeling all of that. All of this is not suddenly going to take me onto the Uttarayana Marga or the northward direction. Why so? Because this is a beautiful line Paramahamsa Yogananda says. A thief, when he goes to sleep and he wakes up a thief. Sleep is not going to transform us into a wise person. In the same way, death is not going to transform us. Death will only offer you relief from suffering of the physical body or conditionings of the physical body. That is the only thing death can offer you. Your emotional state, your desires, your aspirations, inhibitions, all of that we carry. Only the physical body drops. The sapta dhatu, the 7 dhatus or the 7 elements with which our body is made, all the way from the skin to the bone marrow, that drops, that burns. Death does not offer you transformation. There's something that is very important for us to understand. Death is not moksha. Death is not liberation. Of course, death is liberation from the physical body. When the physical body becomes so broken that you're not able to do things that you want to do, then death is a blessing, it's a boon. But otherwise, death is not equal to moksha. Which means, where is moksha? When is moksha to be attained? Moksha is to be attained in wherever state, whichever position, situation we are in. Right? If it's got to be attained, it's got to be attained now. So what is this Archiradi Marga is, or this Uttarayana Marga that Krishna talks about here? There's also a reference in Kathopanishad. Similar reference. He says, Tatra Suryo Bhati na Chandra Tarakam Nema Vidyuto Bhati Kutoyam Agnihi Tameva Bhantam Anubhati Sarvam Tasya Bhasa Sarvam Idam Vibhati. Where does all the sun and the moon and the stars and all of them get their light? Or even the fire, where does it get its light? It gets its light from you, from me, from here. So what it means when we're traveling the path of the light, there is another explanation that's given in the Shastras. is there are 72,000 nadis, right? We're familiar with this 72,000 nadis in our body. Psychic nerves. These are not nerves that you can open up in a lab and see within a human being. These are psychic, or what you call as energy channels. Nadis are nothing but energy channels, 72,000 of them. And it's said from the heart, there are 100 nadis that go up northwards. They have different colors and different lights. And when the sukshma sharira leaves the body, leaves the physical body, when you're what is called as the atma, or what is called as this consciousness, or the individual consciousness that leaves this physical body through these 100 nadis that go upwards, it can go to different planes, different dimensions. And how is that determined? It is determined by our own vasanas, our own desires, our own aspirations, where we want to see ourselves be. In our innermost, outside somebody asks, எனக்கு அப்படியே பெருமாளோட சரண, I want to be at the feet of the Lord, பரமபதத்தை அடைஞ்சிடணும்லாம் பேசுவோம். But in the deepest, innermost desires, or when you go and look into this person's innermost desires, he'll have a lot of desires. ஐயோ என் பையன் என் கூட இல்லவே இல்லையே, ஐயோ இது மாதிரி ஆயிடுது, oh I didn't achieve these things, oh I could have done so much better in life, but this didn't happen. All of these unfulfilled, unsatisfied impressions that remain, it can drive us in different directions at the time of death. Right? So what is said is, these are the 100 nadis that go northwards, and of this, and each can take you into different dimensions, and one of them is also Swargaloka. What is mentioned as heaven by the scriptures at Swarga, that heaven is nothing but a particular dimension. And understand this, heaven doesn't have to be a place in the clouds, right? You may be born as a very, if you look at rich brats, excessive money, do what they like, be the way they want, but never get harmed, never get caught, never undergo any difficulties. They're living heaven. Their life, the quality of life is like heaven like. Why? Because they are reaping the benefits of the punya. They're reaping the benefits of all the good deeds that they have done in the past. Somewhere there's accumulated and they're doing. So heaven doesn't necessarily mean a completely separate dimension in space out there in a different loka. Not necessarily. It could be in a different form also. But the point is, when you exhaust, wherever you are, you exhaust that and you come back. Kshine punye, I think the next chapter it will come. Kshine punye, mrityu loke vishanti. Kshine punye, once you go into the heaven or some of these subtler dimensions and you enjoy the benefits of your punya, kshine punya, as the punya dissolves, as it reduces, mrityu loke vishanti, you come back and fall back into this world, or this world of suffering, because that is the highlight of our life. Highlight of our life is, what do you remember most of our life is suffering. We may have great times, but when you put a graph, you'll say what I most remember is suffering. Right? So what Krishna is saying here is, let's look at this verse again. 21, he said, Avyakto Avyaktah Akshara Ityuktam Ahu Ityuktah Tam Ahu Paramam Gatim Yam Prapya Nanivartante Tadhama Paramam Mama. Once you attain to that highest joy, which is the Satchidananda, the Ananda or the joy of, maybe you can call different kinds of joy. Though some get joy in jnana, some get joy in bhakti, some get joy in karma. But as long as you attain to that joy, which you feel that there is nothing more that needs to be added. I'm not looking for more joy. I'm fulfilled. திருப்தியா இருக்கு. இதுக்கு மேல எனக்கு பெருமாளே வந்து நின்னார்னா கூட எனக்கு கேட்கறதுக்கு ஒண்ணுமே இல்லை. அப்படி திருப்தியா இருக்கு எனக்கு மனசு. இது ஒரு ஸ்டேட். ஒன்ஸ் யூ கெட், that is the abode of Lord Krishna. Because there, in that abode, you're not desiring, you're not wanting, you're not perennial in this cycle of wanting. You have resolved. That is his state. And then he says, and this particular state, he says, is currently existing in everyone. Purushassa paraf partha bhaktya labhyastvananyaya. This state is existing in everyone, because that supreme entity, that Purusha, is in everyone. Yasyantasthani bhutani yena sarvam idam tatam. Is existing in everyone, and it can be attained by everybody. And then he goes to talk about the two margas of after death. Why? Because beware. It is one way of saying beware. You will get stuck in this loop. If you are not wanting the Archaradi marga, suppose you say, I don't know, I don't care, I'm not worried about these things. And if we remain ignorant, then we will not do the right things. And if we don't do the right things, there is a possibility of getting stuck. Now maybe I'll not remember again. See, ரொம்ப simple. நான் திரும்பி பிறந்தா எனக்கு ஞாபகமா இருக்க போறது. If I'm born again, suppose I die and I'm born again somewhere as a எறும்பு, பூச்சி, பூனை, நாய், காக்கா, or maybe a human being, I don't know. If I'm born again, something like that, I'm not going to remember, because I don't remember right now what I was. This may have been my first birth, who knows, right? So likewise, when I'm born again, I will not have the memory of what I was earlier. But what remains is this suffering, this feeling that I feel limited and I don't want to be limited. This feeling, when it becomes overbearing, that is when from inside there is a cry that will come. My guru sings, Podum Amma, Podum Amma Meenakshi. There is one beautiful song. Kalpaka knows that song. He says, Podum Amma, Podum.
Yeah.
உன் விளையாட்டு, எத்தனை தாய்கள், எத்தனை தந்தை, எத்தனை அண்ணா, எத்தனை தம்பி,
தாய்கள் எத்தனை, தந்தை எத்தனை, கணவன் எத்தனை, மனைவி எத்தனை,
எத்தனை எத்தனை எத்தனை. இந்த feeling, this feeling should set in. In the feeling, when it sets in of complete, and it's a cry that will come from inside, right? It's not somebody has got to come and tell. It's not like that. So that the தாய்கள் எத்தனை, தந்தை எத்தனை, எனக்கு போரும், போதும் அம்மா, போதும் போதும் அப்படின்னு ஒரு feeling. So he'll also, the beautiful talk, we should again listen to it sometime. He'll say, Podum Amma Podum. He'll say, your Podum is all very temporary. Mami Artitina Podum Podum. Paiyan Galata Pana Podum Podum. Peti Prachana Pana Podum Podum. So yours is very rumba superficial. That Podum should come from a very deep cry. When that happens, then we look for Archaradi Marga. Then we say, cool, I'm done. I don't want to go through this chakkar again and again. Because somewhere inside we've registered that we've gone through this chakkar again and again and again and again, repeated cycle. So then we look for this, and then we close with this verse. Yatra kale tvanavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginah prayata yanti tam kalam vakshami bharatarshabha agnihi jyotihi aha shukla shanmasa uttarayanam tatra prayata gachanti brahma vido janaha धूमो रात्रिस्तथा कृष्णः षण्मासा दक्षिणायनम तत्र चांद्रामसं ज्योतिः योगी प्राप्य निवर्तते शुक्लकृष्णे गति ह्येते जगतः शाश्वते मते एकया यात्यनावृत्तिम अन्यया वर्तते पुनः. So people keep going back and coming back. If you don't want to do that, go through the Archaradi Marga or the light, the path of the light or path of the sun. That is this. There are two more verses. We will pick it up next time and we'll close chapter 8. Right. So the two more verses are pretty much the same thing. It's just kind of re-establishing that idea. We'll close with that. Om kayena vacha manasendriyerva buddhyatmana va prakrite swabhavat karomi yatyat sakalam parasmai narayanaayeti samarpayami सदाशिवायेति समर्पयामि जगदम्बिकायै इति समर्पयामि सद्गुरुनाथाय इति समर्पयामि. हरि ओम तत्सद्गुरु. ओम नमः. हरि ओम.